just like when we started in sales, I was trained. I went to they sent me to Dale Carnegie school class in New York. I literally had to go to class like once a week, 3 hours a night for like 10 weeks when I was at Ladies Home Journal and learned the Dale Carnegie sales school method, which is, can you imagine that today? It's crazy.
I mean, I worked at a large company and there was a lot of sales training, right? It was a company called Decker that we used to do presentation training with. And then, there were other specialists. I think, Doug Weaver's one. You probably know Doug Weaver and a few guys that just sort of talk about, and I think it's helpful, right? Because I think that when you're a junior, you sort of you can look at sales, or at least I did. It's like there's some puzzle you're trying to solve. And how do I get from here to here? And it can be a mystery, right? Until you have some success and you sort of understand, that ultimately the person on the other side is a person. Like there's motivation there one way or the other. And there's fear, right? So I think understanding those things going into it, again, having empathy for what the other person's trying to achieve or not try to have happen, right? I don't want to be fired is probably a big motivator of a buyer, right? So, how do you make that person look good or not look bad? I mean, those are sort of the base visceral components of it. But yes, I do train. I think the first thing I do is I'll just join a seller on a call.
That's great.
Hear, and and it's usually just and I'll still do it. I'll drop in randomly. They don't know when, because I'm required to be invited to every sales meeting. It helps me to
Good
avoid.
Lord, man. My sellers would, I think, shit themselves if I did that. But I think it's great.
I mean, they understand that I'm there. First of all, they want me there, right? They know that I'm hopefully going to add value. I'm not there to steal their thunder. Right. Certainly not at this point. Maybe earlier in my career, I might have been a little chatty, but I think that it helps me it's always helpful to have someone observe you. And I would say that's true now, right? I talk to my kids about that with sports because kids are if I coach them, they don't want to hear it from dad. But I tell my son, I'm not criticizing you. The difference is I can watch what you're doing while, which is easy for me to see how your body's moving. It's very hard when you're the one doing it to have enough self-awareness to sort of see where you're maybe making mistakes. And
100%.
So it's not that they're making mistakes necessarily, but I can kind of sit there and see how the call goes and then maybe have a post-mortem on it and discuss hey, if we would have asked this, maybe we would have gotten this information and perhaps things would have gone a little bit differently. But I think they also, a lot of my sellers have observed me in meetings enough to see the way that I do it. Where I think that we all have strengths and weaknesses. Certainly being organized is not my strength. And, but there are some sellers that are really effective because they're so organized. So everyone's got a different ability. Yep. I think I'm probably good in the room, right? I'm good at reading people and knowing what to say and knowing the right questions to ask. And I think they've sort of seen the result of that, right? So they see, okay, if I ask these questions, I start to get these answers. And then sales calls become almost like decision tree conversations. Yeah. And it becomes very easy, right? You're okay, if they say this, then I know to do this. And you can start to see it, you can actually see it in real time working, where a buyer will say something and it's almost like the seller wants to jump through the computer screen.
Yeah.
You said it, I've got you. I know now exactly what to do to close this deal. Yeah. But that comes from, experience and being in a lot of conversations. But yeah, I think having them observe me, I think sort of talking about what's happened in calls, that's all really important. And then another thing that I do, so we hold sales meetings once a week.
That's great.
And yes, we can have people recap certainly their business, and it's good to have a high level view, but that's nothing that I can't get by looking at a CRM or through a one-on-one. So I do have a continuing education component of that meeting every week.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
And it's a different seller, right? So the one who's really good at Apollo and understanding how to use that for sequencing, she'll sort of have maybe a 15-minute session learning anything new or what headlines are we using and why, right? In the emails and what's effective there. Versus another one who's really good at understanding how to navigate the affiliate platforms to find, perhaps advertisers that are hitting their head on the ceiling of an affiliate that want to move into now we're gonna get a little bit technical, but like CPC, CPM, flat rate.
Yeah.
And he's really good at that. So talking about, hey, you can use this as a tool. And it's something that I wouldn't know, but he's really good at it and shares it with the rest of the team. So I think, I train certainly, and I know this is a long answer to your question,
That's
but
a
then
good
I
answer.
try to have the sellers, the things that I know they're good at, I want them to share with the rest.